Joining us now to discuss is Eric Eggers, co-host of The Drill Down with Peter Schweizer. Thank you so much for coming on. You have been digging into Tim Walz's past. Did I leave anything out?
That was a very comprehensive breakdown, Ivory. Great job. But there are still more things to talk about, unbelievably. You forgot to mention that he, as the head of the State Board of Investment in Minnesota, because he's the governor, they put $900 million worth of Minnesota tax dollars pension plan money into China. And in Minneapolis is one of the 5 or 6 places where these secret Chinese prisons at least exist, or allegedly exist. So there remain very questionable ties to China. I'd also mention that in this alleged Teams chat that we're subpoenaing the records for, the title of it includes the initials NST, which stand for nation-state threat. So obviously, Homeland Security is aware of very concerning national security threats that Tim Walz's affiliations with China may pose, which is why the number of connections he has with China that you just did an excellent job of detailing should be very troubling to all Americans.
Wow. So when you saw the subpoena, this new letter, actually, that it turns out Oversight now has another whistleblower, so many whistleblowers coming to Congress, apparently, which is a great thing when we have our federal agencies stonewalling. What was your reaction? Do you think this is going to have any momentum to get these agencies to cooperate?
So you mentioned a name that I think is really important to consider just in terms of context at the beginning of this segment, Ivory, and it's Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's somebody who had questionable business dealings and a spotty military career and a history of substance abuse. All 3 of those things, by the way, you can say about Tim Walz. And when people want to ask questions about, hey, are Hunter Biden's business connections relevant to what's happening in our government? The FBI and the Department of Justice worked with big tech to actively suppress that information from the American people in the month ahead of the election 4 years ago. We're now in October. It's time to ask similar questions about Tim Walz. And so what I'm concerned about is that even though Elon Musk now owns Twitter and will not be actively censoring information that would be harmful to the Biden or Harris Walz campaign, what I do believe will happen is the FBI can, as you noted, stonewall so they can use their own form of suppression, just maybe this time without the help of big tech. Because what they're not doing is not giving James Comer the information. They're not turning over information that's been asked for by other members of Congress. Like, hey, when Tim Walz was in the military and had an ascending level of security clearance as his military career improved, did he file these foreign travel reports as members of the military are required to do when they go to places like China? And you have to report, did you run into any people with suspicious questions and suspicious activities? So we don't know if he didn't file those reports, but if he didn't, other people have noted that would be a very big red flag that maybe, unfortunately, they may hang, as you said, in the Red House.
And a lot of Americans, I think, just look at this and say, that's a little far-fetched. Tim Walz is such an all-American white guy. Why would you believe that he's a Chinese agent? Come on, guys. What other evidence do you have for Chinese influence in America? What would your response be?
Well, let's just talk about your use of the phrase all-American white guy. Other videos have come out that say Tim Walz as governor touts the fact that Minnesota has more immigrants in place than any other state in the country. And as you noted, he supported a lot of things that seem very aligned with the Chinese Communist Party in terms of, the censorship and the tracking of people who say things that aren't friendly to what the government wants you to say. I mean, let's remember this. Ivory, you and I could not be having this conversation in China, where we ask real hard questions about the leadership of this country, people that want to lead this country. If you do the same thing in China, you get disappeared. And so the fact that Tim Walz was allowed to teach a class there, as often as he didn't do that by saying things that Chinese Communist Party didn't agree with. So I would say whatever his demographic profile may be, his ideological profile is certainly very aligned with the Chinese Communist Party, and that's why we should be concerned.
Fascinating. Do you have any predictions on where this investigation goes next? Is there going to be an October surprise about Tim Walz?
Well, I think we may be seeing evidence of some of that, right? I mean, I think the fact that you have more whistleblowers come forward. Remember, this is somebody we just learned about on the national stage a little bit ago, and it's not like they're giving interviews on a regular basis where honest media can ask tough questions. They're largely avoiding that. So I do think the more people look into Tim Walz, the more we find. And just in the amount of time he's been the vice presidential nominee, think about all the things you laid out in the introduction to this segment. There's clearly a lot to talk about now, and I would imagine there's only more to discover.
Yeah, looking forward to finding out what these investigators can find out next. Hopefully the whistleblowers will continue to bring out more clues since the feds are being tight-lipped about it. Eric Eggers, great having you on.
Hey, my pleasure, Ivory. Congratulations again on the show.
Thank you so much.